present for the oil producing community is too low.
So the support that is needed, and once again, the support your airline people will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Tuesday edition of Inside Nigeria here at the Leadership Television. My name is, of course, Body Gbadebo, holding forth today. And of course, I'm having a big catch today. Majid Bakari of Premium Times Nigeria, debuting on the program. Welcome, Majid.
It's a great pleasure.
Thank you so much. Right. Even at short notice, you actually answered our invite. It's a pleasure.
It's a great pleasure.
All right, viewers, as usual, we shall be dissecting front page stories of leadership, national economy, Punch, and This Day today. And of course, we shall be talking about the big idea memorial in honor of the founding chairman of Leadership Newspaper Group, the late Sam Inda Isaiah, which is ongoing now as we speak at Abuja's first event center, International Conference Center here in Abuja. Well, before that, let's start with the newspaper. And of course, as usual, we're starting with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, The Leadership. On the front page of Leadership this morning, controversy trails Akande's account of Osinbajo's emergence as vice president. Controversy trails Akande's account of Osinbajo's emergence as vice president. Tinubu, Aregbesola, and Mosun camps declare comments on power play intrigues. Majid, there is a book launched just last Thursday in Lagos called My Participations by former governor of Osun State, Chief Bisi Akande. And that book is causing, ripples in polity as we speak, since it's launched last Thursday. One account of it is a story by Leadership this morning. Controversy traces Akande account of how Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was nominated by President Muhammadu Buhari as his vice presidential candidate in 2015. Now, I know you must have read stories about the book. It's about whether it was Tinubu or not. And I don't think whether this is important to us at this stage of our national discourse. So, is it important who nominated Osinbajo or how Osinbajo emerged as Buhari's VP or not?
Thank you. Within the public discourse, even if you put out, let me take for example now, if you have a report, let's say 500 pages in a report, a single part of it could become the point of conversation, perhaps maybe because it's sensational, or probably because it's in vogue, or you have an event that is making it a trend. But before I dive into
and as well controversial.
Yes, okay. Before I dive into whether it was it's important or not, I think what is critical is that we need such memo for people who participate in politics to be able to render account. Although politicians are notorious for exaggerations or even outright lies, so we are not going to take it away, but let us have it, because such account is going to be different from someone who perhaps a journalist who decided to write a book, because perhaps a lot of things within that book are public knowledge to a large extent. What is different there is that it's not someone saying, someone said so. No. Someone telling you this is a direct participant. So I think the title of the book is apt and precise. Because what is important there is that if you look at Segun Adeni, my big brother, in his one of his books, when he talked about the intrigue surrounding the nomination of Buhari and Tinubu's quest to become the running mate. So it's not new. And as a matter of fact,
was that again against the run of play?
Yes, it was clearly stated there
about the account of President Yaradua's illness and death.
Yes. So if you look at it very well, there is a bit of consistency between the accounts in that book, although I've not read Chief Bisi Akande's book, which hopefully in the next couple of days we'll be able to read. So if you know, there is it's a question. It's a matter of fact who nominated the vice president. I'm not sure there's any controversy as to who nominated him, because before 2015, anyone who can say boldly that okay, I'm familiar with this particular person must either be from Lagos State or is definitely from Lagos State. because that is, and for you to even recall him, you must have been well entrenched in that politics, because even as the Attorney General of Lagos State, his focus was a little bit to the courtroom side. Perhaps he could have been a lawyer or a member of his church or whatever. So for us to now say this is the person nominated, that's a question of fact. But what is intriguing and what is interesting is that the book has actually revealed what some of us have been saying for a very long time, that the structure of the Tinubu's camp is not the old pyramid structure of the master at the top while everybody is at the bottom. It shows you that a juggernaut, like a machine, has been created. Because if you look at it very well, people's opinion of Tinubu is someone who just give directive and everybody just run it as scatter. So it tells you the level of consultations before decisions are made, and that is why for over 22 years now, that particular establishment, could I call it establishment, or perhaps that particular network, because for you to have
The
within,
kind of political dynasty.
yes,
Tinubu
the
political
network,
dynasty.
yeah, within it, for you to have a lot of several ex-governors who are still within that network. And it shows you the transformation between 2015 and now, because had it been Tinubu and the whole APC structure had not been able to capture the center, the Lagos states would not have contained them. Even the Southwest would not have contained them. Now you have a situation whereby nowadays that if you are dissatisfied in terms of political appointment in Lagos State, what they just get you, okay, you go to national level, or you take this. So it started in Lagos State, expanded to Southwest, when you start having members from that political bloc, going to Oshun, if it's Aregbesola going there to go and run for election,
Exactly.
Uvala
Lai
Mohammed
Mohammed
in
went to Kwara to
2003
contest for
to
governorship.
contest. So we've had the spread within the Southwest. Now they are at national level. So if it's now going forward, we all understand who is at the very top of that decision making. But what we've come to realize now, for a lot of people who have not come to terms with it, is that within that machinery, there are other pieces and pieces, just like you have a car, where you have the main engine, you have this one, and the little faults inside can even render that car useless. So it now shows you that Amosu has been an ally of President Buhari since the CPC days. So I was not surprised when the question of sending the name to Buhari was sent via Amosu and Aregbesola, who has remained a very, very important piece along that is axis within Lagos State, because he may be from Osun, but you know that his role in the mandate structure that has been around since probably
In
2007.
fact, one can say he's a member of
Yes.
the Tinubu political family.
Yes, of that particular. And well, if you recall very well, during one of the colloquium for his birthday, the governor of Kaduna State, who is no fan of Tinubu at all, made reference and said, "You're a personal person. You are a personal person of Tinubu, but me, I'm not." So it shows you that, and that is what I said in the beginning, that it is critical. Even if you're going to lie, if you're going to exaggerate, let us have it, so that within
For
it,
historical purpose.
yes, for historical purpose, we can separate the shaft and the wheat and understand.
But Majid, to cut the long story short, personally, do you believe Baba Kande's account that Tinubu was instrumental to Osinbajo's emergence as Buhari's
Absolutely.
vice? Okay, you believe that? Because there are people already saying, no, that's not true. In fact, Tinubu was even against the nomination of Osinbajo because he wanted for himself to become the vice president at the time.
Of course, it was glaring that he wanted it. But if you now take your mind back to against the run of play by Olusegun, you will now see it clearly that the question of Muslim ticket became an issue, and there was the argument, perhaps as Akonde has stated, swayed the mind of Buhari, who could not go back to him and say, "Look, this is what people are saying. We cannot do this," because unfortunately for them as a party, that they refused to do that, because the question of religion played such an extreme importance in 2015, despite that kind of balanced ticket, where you have someone who has been accused allegedly of being a religious fanatic at this side, and you now have a running mate who happens to be a member, a senior pastor in one of the largest churches in Nigeria, perhaps in Africa, Redeemed Christian Church of God. So that dynamic is in play well. But we've seen it. He could have stood in his ground back then and said, "No, we are not going this way." And say, "Is either me or no one?" Because we've seen it in politics in Nigeria. Where someone will say that if you don't give me this ticket,
I will rock the vote.
I'm not going to leave this party, and I'm going to make sure that, and he could have worked in the role that he has played. So for us, whether grudgingly or enthusiastically or nominating
Unwillingly.
himself, the role that he played
Plate cannot be which
cannot be, yeah.
all right. Honestly, if one we continue to talk about this book, we won't have enough time, because I recall 2 days ago some person also who called himself close to President Buhari castigated Akande, saying the account that Buhari promised Tinubu the vice presidential slot and he reneged was not true. But then Buhari was at the book launch. He never disagreed with the account of Baba Akande, and in fact he described Baba Akande as an honest Nigerian. Even though some people are even saying, well, if Akande, according to Buhari, is honest,
sent him to prison.
exactly,
but
interesting debate about that book.
But it's
Still
a
ongoing.
lesson for a lot of young persons like myself who are born bridges on the internet, who insult people, disagree with them because
It's
of
unnecessary.
their loyalty. Look at it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think President Obasanjo was at that book launch. I'm not
No,
sure.
he was not.
But he was not.
That book launch was used to actually castigate
And if you
Obasanjo very well.
see the dynamics of the
Buhari also
persons
castigated
who they
Obasanjo at the book launch.
castigated in 2015, this was the same set of
That endorsed them.
who went
They went to his
meeting.
house.
So
Looking
so
for
he
endorsement.
just realized that these
Politics in
people
Nigeria.
are professional politicians. They understand that at the end of the day, it's just we.
Well, Gypsy, like I said, we have to continue. There won't be enough time. Interesting debates ongoing about my participation and autobiography by former governor of Osun State, Chief BC Akande. We need to move away to a little bit of business. Well, our sister publication this morning, National Economy, is having on its front page, 5 years after lack of legislation cripples whistleblower policy. 5 years after lack of legislation cripples whistleblower policy. Najib, I don't know if you believe this.
At a larger sense, of course, it's true. There's a limit to what policy can do. When policy
Without
gets to a
extant
point,
law.
you need to provide the necessary legal framework to give it sufficient backing that it desperately needs. The momentum, of course, for anything in life, there's a certain way momentum can push you. What you now need is institutions, and when you institutionalize certain things and certain roles and responsibility are given, and certain sanctions are attached to it, so it will not be at the discretion of individual, because it's a great problem when you put in policy in place at the level of discretion of an individual. When that person leaves, automatically you'll be hoping that the next person inherits that same set of blessing. So and I think it goes to we must put it in the right perspective that if the APC-led government is actually interested in this bill as they claim, there is no better time to get it done. This is the kind of assembly that can help them to pass it. It's a matter of prioritizing it. So that lack of priority on the part of the executive has actually sent the right kind of message. Because I'm not part of the people who are always of the opinion and say, oh, this particular assembly, this particular assembly, that this particular assembly has been able to get a lot of things done.
No,
as far as
exactly,
legislation is
exactly.
concerned. PIB was thought to be something that is not possible to be
After
done. It is
20
done,
years.
just like that. The Electoral Act, we're still waiting for signature.
President.
We've seen petroleum sharing contract B that was just done, within less than 2 weeks or thereabout. So basically, if you want to do this, then you can't have that. We are not at that point where you say somebody is not allowed to do it. You have absolute majority in the House of Representatives, absolute majority in the Senate. So you cannot say, unless if the party and the government is coming and say, this is not the direction we are going at. But it has to be the direction that they have to go at, because it is simple. The words of mouth are not going to clear the kind of corruption that we are seeing in this country. Despite the rhetorics and everybody, you can still be rest assured that corruption is still here at a mammoth level. So this is not a time to say whether it's APC or PDP. It's an issue that we need to get off the table. And if they've identified, okay, whistleblowing is an integral part of the process, then you must make that integral part of that process a substantive part. And what can make it substantive is when you put, the legal instrument in place for it. So, and I think maybe perhaps they've forgotten, which they shouldn't be, because the whole campaign and the whole promises were exclusively on getting out corruption, because it's it's a big elephant that you don't need to be pointed at and say, oh, this is where it is. It's huge, it's disrupting life, and it's making the whole thing. But perhaps maybe along the line they found another policy or solution in their own mind that will rectify this. But they need to be able to come out to Nigerians and say, we once said this is the way, but however, this is no longer the way. And give us assessment of what you've done so far. How many persons have been convicted through this policy? How efficient has it been in terms of payments and preventing victimization?
Sorry for cutting you short. Whenever anybody is saying Nigeria is not a serious country, I find it difficult to disagree. You know why? The examples, the evidences are very, very clear. For example, in 2016, when this whistleblowing policy was introduced, the momentum was high.
And then a lot of seminars and training on how to improve it. Yeah.
Now we recovered a lot of money in different hard currencies. Remember the Ikoyi?
Yes.
Cash.
Osborne.
Yeah, exactly. An Osborne building. You understand? Up to today, nothing about it because prominent people in this government were involved. So does that mean EFCC does not know the next step to take? Now, 5 years down the line, nothing about it again because people are no longer sure. There are uncertainty about the policy, like we all agree, because there are no legal framework. Of course, you won't know what becomes your fate. People need to understand the rules, the do's and don'ts of it.
Yes.
Now, do you know that the media, most of the investigative reports we churn out every day, they are whistleblowing.
Yes, now you
free of charge.
No matter how good you are,
free of charge.
No matter how good you are as a journalist, you can't just work in a place. For every good report that you see,
free of charge,
talking about massive corruption, someone went out of their way to give you that document.
The other whistleblowers outside the media are expecting between 2.5% and 5% commission.
Yes.
But for media,
it's just free of charge.
It's free.
Yeah.
But the question is ICPC, EFCC, police, NDLE, and no other anti-corruption and law enforcement agency, the NFIU, are they following up on this report? No. Our report gets dismissed every day.
Yes, sir.
When you even call to get, confirmation or
the actions,
you don't get anything. In, abeyance to the Freedom of Information Act. So, the government is the one, that is enemy of itself in this anti-corruption fight. But we will keep doing our job as journalists. It is left for them. The ball is always in their court to do the right thing. Majid, thank you for that. We need to go on a short break. When we come back, we'll take the discussion to another level. Don't go away.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. It's still Inside Nigeria this Tuesday, December 14, 2021. I'm on, and of course, I still have my guest with me, Majid Bakari, an investigative journalist with Premium Times Nigeria. Thank you, Majid, for being with us thus far. Well, like I said earlier, today is not just like any other day at the leadership newspaper group. Today is the special day. We are holding a big idea memorial in honor of our founding chairman, late Sam Inda Isaiah, who died on December 11, 2020. As we speak, a memorial service is ongoing at Abuja's International Conference Center, where Sunday Iswa will be joining me now to give us a snippet of what is happening there. Good morning, Sunday.
Hello, good morning.
Can you hear you?
Yeah, it's an atmosphere of emotion presently at the International Conference Center, Abuja. The church service for the 1-year memorial of the chairman, the founding chairman of Leadership newspaper, Mr. Sam Dazaya, is presently ongoing. And presently, as I speak to you, the fire is administered, and the secretary to the government of the federation, Boss Mustafa, just walked into church program right now. But right inside the church service, we have Minister of Information Alhaji Lai Mohammed. We have Minister of Interior Raul Aribeshola. We have other ministers of God, and we have representatives from the military. We have the chief of the air staff, ably represented by the spokesman of the Nigerian Air Force, and all of them are here. Many people, are coming into the hall, and you can see right behind me, everywhere is decorated, and we have a lot of people right here, and the program is so awesome. A lot of people are here. It's a show of emotion and all that, and many people are expressing their happiness for what the founding chairman of Leadership newspaper have done within a short period when he lived as chairman of Leadership newspaper. So it's a very emotional atmosphere right here at the International Conference Center, and it's a memorable event, and a lot of people are here right now, as you can see right behind me. So the atmosphere here is very noisy, so you may not hear me, or I cannot hear you very clearly, but I can assure you that prominent Nigerians are here, and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, has also, stepped into the program. All of them are worshiping God, thanking God for the life of the founding chairman of Leadership, Mr. Sam Dazaya.
All right. Sunday, I don't know if you can hear me very well because the background is noisy. I know a church service is ongoing. But after the church service, I know a political discourse will also take place. Think the big ideas with the title, How Nigerian Political Parties Have Fared So Far. No, now tell us the speakers, what they're going to say. Which of the speakers is present, and who are we expecting to also be part of this political discourse?
The speakers are already here, and most of them are politicians and technocrats, and they are people of proven integrity. And Mr. Sam Dazaya stands for credible leadership in Nigeria. That was his hallmark of his column, the big of his column when he was writing. And his ideas are already big ideas, and even when he ventured into politics, he brought in the issue of big ideas. He wanted to take the leadership of Nigeria through big ideas, but many are wondering whether this whether his ideas he stood for can actually be actualized. But there is a lot of optimism from Nigerians, especially young Nigerians, who believe on the issues that Mr. Sam Dazaya stood for, and they are ready to make sure that the country gets better through the big ideas of Sam Dazaya. So the discussions are already here, and it's a church service, so I may not pinpoint the people who are already seated in the front, but I can assure you that the people are here and they are ready to discuss issues that will lead to the progress and development of Nigeria.
All right, many thanks to you for the Joshua, senior correspondent who has been speaking with the international conference right in Abuja. Memorial in honor of the late founding chairman of leadership newspaper group, the late Sam Inda Isaiah, the first Kakaki Inope. Thank you, Sunday. I don't know how much you knew our late founding chairman, Sam Inda Isaiah, the man who was rightly described, or who is rightly described as a man of big idea. Remember, this is a man, a non-journalist who successfully published a national newspaper to prominence. I don't know how much you knew about him.
Before 2015, no sense of seriousness, nothing much.
Okay.
No, that was in 2014 when he
Okay,
was
when he
running
started
for,
going around seeking
yes.
for votes to contest for presidency.
Back then, I was still at the university. So there was some guys in our faculty of law in my former school, there's a University of Abuja. And I was like, who's this person? I was like, are you serious? So we had conversation, and over and over and over, then I got to see, what the person was trying to convey to me. But the reality of Nigeria political system is that so many of the good guys are kept out because we know running a newspaper in Nigeria is not an easy job. For you to be gone after 1 year, and for the newspaper to not just continue to print, but to be better, for us to have a studio where we can sit down there, and broadcast to the wide world, it shows you someone who can build things that can even stay longer after he has gone. A lot of governors in this country cannot even build roads or schools that can exist after they've left office. So it shows you. But we are not going to dwell on the past. We have to forge ahead, and it's a good thing that the organization decided not just to just have a service after him, but to have conversations as regard that moving forward and say the ideas of big ideas, the leadership. These are part of the whole concept because when we sweep away corruption at one side, the bigger vacuum that we have left is the idea of the kind of leadership. How are they coming? What are the kind of process bringing about? What are the kind of ideology or philosophy that they stand for to achieve the idea of good roads, electricity, education, and good healthcare system? So I think there's that kudos to the organization to know that okay, the body could have maybe been laid to rest at the burial site, but the ideas, the
Yes, sir.
things that he stood for while he was alive, they are still keeping in touch with it. So I think it's a pretty great one. So the next generation are not just going to, we're not going to ask them and say, do you know this person? Because whenever they see leadership newspaper as a brand, they will know, okay, there was a man who had this idea. We didn't just have it and keep it somewhere under his pillow, executed it, and that idea still lived, after he was gone. So that is my view about it.
Thank you. Many thanks, Jade. We need to go back to our newspaper. The top newspaper on our menu this morning is THISDAY newspaper, and of course, on the front page of THISDAY this morning, after destroying local government system, leading to insecurity, governors working to scuttle electoral reform. After destroying local government system, leading to insecurity, governors working to scuttle electoral reform. Still lobbying president not to sign bill into law. INEC warns delay may affect off-season polls. More civil society organizations urge Buhari's assets. Majid, I don't know if you believe this story that governors were responsible for the destruction of the local government system, and that is more reason why we have insecurity. And the same governors now are against a better electoral, atmosphere for the country.
Let me be fast because I know time is already against us.
No.
Let me divide this into three.
All right.
Governors are destroying the local government system. I think we need to remove the word destroy and just change it to destroyed. They've destroyed it.
Okay, nothing left.
There is nothing left, save for some maybe one or two states in the country. And that should be the bedrock of any society because, like Rotimi said in one of his books, that if you the community destroy one family at a time, because when the family is destroyed, one way or the other, it
It's the
affects
community.
the entire society. So when local governments have become places where people just go in money, play some ludo, and at the end of the month they get pocket money, because I can't call that salary. Salary is wages, it's the reward for labor that we have done so and so what, I get money. Well, pocket money is what you are giving to fulfill our righteousness and say, don't die on me. But what has happened, if you check very well, in my local government back then, between 1999 and 2002 or thereabouts, when INEC conducted elections into local government at the return of democracy, my then local government chairman was a member of the PDP, the then governor was a member of the APP before they transferred and transferred to ANPP. Whatever happens, whether the governor is there, he was doing his work. And the drainages, the schools, and everything that he built over 20 years are still the hallmark or the standard of measurement that we still refer to this period as the golden years, for the local government. What has happened before that? What two things have changed? State electoral commissions have taken over. One, which they don't conduct election, they just do confirmation, and not even confirmation, they just do a ceremonial confirmation of whomever the governor decided to pick. And secondly, the question around the joint local government account, which we know how governors have turned it around. But if you look at these two things very well, there's another issue on the scale, which is question around the structuring. And say, how can we practice a good and sustainable federal system where the subnationals can play their role, the federal can play their role without anybody interfering in one another. But when you have governors, with all due respect, who are not responsible, because what I see in them is lack of being responsible. Because if they're responsible enough, they will understand this. That there are certain things that you leave out of politics. You may try to exploit each other, but when it comes to the society, because when you destroy that society in the name of politics, in the name of let me pick whoever I want, and you destroy that system, at the end of the day, it is the aggregate of all these issues that that has ended up producing bandits or this thing, because there are vacuums. There are some local rural settlement that you go to that there are no any form of element of
So they become
of sovereignty.
ungoverned spaces.
So when you leave those
Of course.
ungoverned spaces, on ground like you rightfully said, you allow anybody to just who can offer leadership. And we've seen it in cases of Boko Haram that when they come in at times, they even establish a form of judiciary system.
Exactly.
And say,
Impose tax and the rest of them.
impose tax, and people to a large extent start trusting them.
We still have it in Sokoto and Zamfara
So
State.
we've seen the same form of system replicated now in the Northwest. We've seen elements of it in North Central, particularly in Niger State. So what are we saying here is that the governors, no amount of crying that they make and say, because there are moves that we could have made. We could have successfully decentralized the police. We could have created state police, but every single member of the National Assembly is afraid of governors with direct access to their police. So that level of trust has not been able, and unfortunately, I wrote a report on a bill to now move INEC, to move conduct of local government election to INEC. It's like I said, we are taking 2 steps forward and we are taking 5 steps backward because of that same fear that these governors are not responsible enough for you to give them this kind of responsibility. So that is the second aspect of separating it. Let us now go to the question of electoral reform. And I think there's a need for us at this point to exercise a lot of caution. And in the 8th Assembly, one single clause destroyed the whole electoral bill. That was election sequence. And the product of that electoral sequence, it did not come from public hearing or expert contribution. It came at the committee of the board during consideration. I could remember that lawmaker was a member of the House, Edward Pajo, just raised an amendment and said, let us have election sequence as established the mode of the sequence of election, be the president first and this like that, with the political undertone in it, because most times the president wants to go first so that the governors who have had some form of agreement cannot go on their own. And the lawmakers too wants to be in a strategic position so that they can have their election without governor. So he made an amendment. That thing destroyed the entire work done by the two committees. Now, and this particular one too, just out of the blues, Kochebe Abela stood up and raised an amendment on this matter. It was not product of committee consideration or technical section on this. And it's and I tell you, I reassure you, that those people who are skeptical about this have valid points and valid reason for being concerned. INEC, the question is, INEC has already put it and said that it is now our responsibility to fund primaries. So therefore, it's not. But of course, it's true. But they are monitoring. What is the current staff of INEC? How many can they deploy to even just the two big name parties? Then you have another 18. Primaries. So, and former Senator Marafa said something clearly. He said, whoever pays the money for organizing direct primaries is going to be the one to dictate what is going to happen there. And the other fear I have is not the use of the option A4. So I know some have argued, like Senator Gaya, who was a former governor in Kano State, made that argument and said that how was the product of the direct primaries? People killed behind pictures and worked. And I'll give you one very good example. In Lagos State, a family friend who happens to be involved in local politics, before they left the house, they said, no, we're going to vote for somebody because in that their axis, some do that, the rest, somebody did a lot of this community votes and things like that. So she was of the view that they are going to vote. She didn't now for let us give what vote. No, I was even on the phone with her that man. When they got to the place, the man who was making the introduction made the introduction in a way that it passes message and said, this is where we are going. And everybody, and if you look at the number that came out of that direct primaries, it was obvious that there are cohesive force in the process, and that is in Lagos State to that extent, where it is more within city center where you can take out for. So now imagine when you now have
does not necessarily guarantee democracy.
Just
can be manipulated. I think what is important is political will.
Yes,
sincerity of purpose. That
the politicians must understand that politics, at the end of the day, there must be room for some decency and decorum and gamemanship and say, okay, I accept this, I accept that, based on existing agreements that you have. Because what we'd like to do in Nigeria is what I call, how would I put it? We like to distract ourselves and say, oh, when we achieve this one, we achieve Eldorado. If you bring it tomorrow, the same conversations are still going to play. I don't like the delegate system. It gives some persons room, but the alternative should not create problems. And this is what is going to create, unless you have a conversation. So in my own view, I think the president should make wide consultation. If at the end of the day he signs it, then so
you support the president to drag him to be sure.
Let us be sure. Let us not say we should, because the main problem with that this thing is that both direct primary and transmission of results has over time occupied the entire space for discussing this bill. Because at the end of the day now, as a person, my concern has always been election financing. You know, the question of how much you can spend, what are the mechanisms. We've not discussed that aspect. And if you like sign us young to run, women should run, blah, 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 this. If you do not discuss how people get the funding for running election in Nigeria, every other single thing is just a waste of time. Because if we discuss that funding, then someone will not be sitting down somewhere and just be buying votes. Because at the end of the day, even if you allow direct primaries to be free, fair, credible, blah, 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 which I don't know if it will be, the thing is that you just create a chop money for people. Chop money during direct primary. Let us even ask ourselves, apart from APC and PDP, and sorry for that, but because this is a very, very important issue for me. You've seen instances where during direct primaries for a candidate, you could end up scoring as much as 200 and something thousand votes. Yeah, I don't want to call it that, so I'm just saying. But during the election properly, are the members of the party more than the actual accredited voters who ended up turning out? Because if you can bring out 200 and something thousand people, what happened during the election properly? So it just shows you, and it's just the two parties who quote unquote said that we have, registrar, and the same registrar that members can just jump from day tomorrow and go back to the next day and say, I've decamped and I'm decamping with 10,000 people. Do you go back to your book and say, no, I'm no longer these 10,000 people who has followed the politician A to this party are no longer? So come on.
No, it's a long debate, like the book by Chief BC Akande. All right, for want of time, we look at the last paper on our menu this morning, the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch this morning, 3,125 killed, 2,703 abducted in 11 months. VIPs knock federal government. 3,125 killed, 2,703 abducted in 11 months. VIPs knock federal government, saying match words with action, all not well. Obasanjo Sultan, Ariwa Consultative Forum, others tell federal government. Buhari prefers traveling abroad to visit victims of banditry, says Northern Khan. Nigeria must trash 1999 constitution to overcome security challenges, according to Are Onekakanfo of Yoruba Land, Chief Gani Adams. And let me start from that last rider to this story. Do you believe 1999 constitution is an impediment or is an ambenga of our security challenges?
The question, if I'm able to be in front of the area of the Kaka for Yoruba and Chief Guardians, I'm asking how many police officer does he have in his compound guiding him?
Okay.
Because the VIPs can talk what they want. The question about Nigeria state is not responsibility of federal government for everybody to be responsible. We have to. At times I go around jogging, maybe in some part of Abuja, and I see a minister who are always running jogging. I see him jogging within Buzape axis with about 7 police officers or DSS or whatever inside Abuja.
So how do you want to travel?
So and there are communities where they need these police officers. And every time we have IG or police coming, it's like a ritual for them. We dismantle all roadblocks. I ever give immediate order to withdraw from VIP. Many of those things have been done. You even see members of the National Assembly walking inside the National Assembly with 2 or 3 police officers guiding them. It's just
not even elected. Have you seen their wives?
I'm just telling you that you're walking inside the National Assembly, where people must have passed through 2 or 3 security checkpoints. But they're supposed to be as safe as possible.
Why you say a policeman permanently on Mufti?
On Mufti,
running errands, going to market.
So some of them even carries handbag. So how can you now talk about security when you do not even understand the issues? So when that is when we will not do a lot of deflection and say, well, let us trash the 1999 constitution. Tell me, is there a civilian government that can actually sit down and convoke a national constitutional review and produce a document? The last time that they sat in 2014, what did they come out with? Let us create additional 18 states. So apart from the militaries who have created states and local government, how many civilian government have actually been able to successfully review? Because it tells you. Take for example, now there are a lot of states that are due for reviews for senatorial, for House of Representative District constituencies, for states. Look at places that are growing every day. 20 years ago, I'm not sure there's anywhere like Lugbe, the whole expansion. Today, a lot of places are coming up. You go to the Mowe axis to blah blah blah. There are places that are even bigger than some cities or some states there. How are we being able to draw these minorities to not say trash the constitution, write a brand new one?
I think constitution too is an impediment somehow. Well, it may not be total. Look at Lagos as a classical example. Lagos is said to have about 20 million population.
Kano local government.
Yeah, Kano also have the same population, but Kano has 44 local government. Lagos has 20. Now, Kano and Lagos were created the same time in 1967. Down the line, Kano
created by local government.
No, has been split into 2.
Yes.
Now have Kano as the. Despite the splitting, Kano has 44 local government. Lagos has 20 with the same population, very close population.
But it goes back to what I'm telling you.
Kano has
They
more
are-
seats in the National Assembly than any other,
I think
maybe combined the whole Southwest
They have both 22 and 24. Lagos State and Kano.
in the House of
In
Reps.
House of Reps.
Okay, just local government.
Yeah, just the local
But
government.
people will say, the allocation that will be due to Lagos will be less compared to Kano.
But that is what I'm telling you. Now we've just taken one issue. One. We've been discussing it now. We cannot now look at it and say, okay, we are producing a new document. The constitution is never going to be perfect. What everybody should first play their part. And if you are electing a senator or whatsoever, give a clear instruction. His job is not to build the next borehole for you. His job,
because of poverty, people will
yes,
be able to do that.
but his job
They'll prefer the
is to
5,000
create
naira
a
handout.
system.
5,000 naira handout.
So it now tells you that so if we now say that the problem is the constitution, that means we are saying that our problem is
It's a
unsolvable.
lame excuse.
We are saying that our problem is unsolvable. So if we now say that and say until we create that new constitution, see, Nigerians have a way of creating Eldorado in their listing by saying that one abracadabra magic will always resolve things. If we say that one of the major impediments in the constitution will go to the aid of state police. I've just told you that in less than 5 minutes. There are a lot of persons. There are governors in this country that I'm scared of them having policemen. Because even without police, some of them will give you excuses and say, oh, it's because we don't have police, that's why we can't do this. If you offend certain governors as a journalist, he will send the same police that he could not send to maintain law and orders in certain districts. The same local governments where he has refused to function by appointing caretaker committees who will probably be living in the state capitals and just come, at the end of the month, work with the DPM and share money and still go back. So when you keep on creating problems and say, oh, the certain aspect that we cannot fix is the problem. This constitution, no matter what, this is not the pre-colonial constitution. We say, oh, we have my Paxson, oh, we have this, we have this thing, we have regional Republican. These are constitutions that, to a large extent, will keep on having conversation and amending it. The U.S. Constitution that quotes this thing was created at a point when a man who, because of the color of his skin, is not even regarded as human being or as a citizen. Today, that is the same constitution that they made, because over time, constitutions will continue to go through, changes. Process. So let us identify and say, okay, this is the part that we do not want. Then we'll walk over it. Okay, this is the part we need to change, because the document is a living thing, and that is why when we refer to it as a continuous process and say it says, it provides, because it's something that's an embodiment. So you continue to go. So if I now say, okay, on the basis of Buhari life traveling abroad, it's something that, because as a person, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Rather than to empathize with victims of insecurity.
Let us now
just a statement. Buhari condemns.
I think Garba Shehu must have a template. No, because I'm not sure. Condemns. Because we've normalized killing in this country and abduction, because we're at a point in our life whereby it will take maybe 1,000 people being dead at once before people can have this, because it has become so normal that if you just wake up, you just see it and say, oh, 400 person killed some of them. We move on. And at the point, because over time, when some things become reoccurring, it's becoming that news. If you go to your editor and say, please, I need to travel to Sokoto, 3 people were killed somewhere. First look at that. So where's the news?
Before you get there, other
person would have been killed in Taraba or in another place. So whether be it Khan or be it the Muslim society or anyone, we have a problem. And this problem, if Buhari goes into 2023, these problems are still going to be there, because
the institutional, foundational,
we have, particularly in the north, the problem of security. There is a nexus between it and poverty. And it's also exacerbated by the level of inequality that exists there, because over time, people have, because of faith, people look and say, okay, Kadira, whenever money will come to me to come. But people are no longer taking nowadays, and it's like someone whose mouth is at the press. You can just kidnap someone and get 100 million. So what are you going to offer him and say, don't do this thing again?
You're not as lucrative as it seems.
Because he has tried it. The same way we have problem of internet crime in the south. Which job are you going to tell an average Yahoo and say, oh, let me give you a federal government job? You're going to pay 17,000.
Something that is training within minutes and get millions.
Something that you spend at a club. So when you create a system that has allowed people to become fat doing basically nothing, good luck to you changing that. And if we do not address those problems, the fundamentals of it, we are not going. So whether VIP, whether Kano, everybody should look and say, in the last 20 years, what has been the population increase and what has been the number of schools created?
Commensurate.
So when those things are not going pari passu, just expect chaos.
Many thanks to you, Majid Bakari, investigative journalist at Premium Times, Nigeria. We hope to see more of you when you arrive.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
On Inside Nigeria. And of course, many thanks to Sunday Iswa, who also joined me from International Conference Center, venue of first year memorial in honor of the founding chairman of Leadership Newspapers Group, the late Sam Inda Isaiah, the first Kakaki Nope. Well, viewers, thank you for being with us from the hour of 10 to this moment. Make it with us tomorrow for another edition of Inside Nigeria. And of course, my remain body, bye for now.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.